welcome back to another episode of Inspiration Talks. I'm very excited about today's episode. Today, I have a guest who is literally on the board and is about to connect. So, before any delay, let's welcome her. But let me tell you a little about yourself. So, she is an amazing author, also a great writer. Apart from that, in this episode, we will be discussing on how to live sustainably. So before any delay, let's welcome Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you doing today?
Hello, Liva. Nice to meet you. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Likewise, firstly, thank you so much for being part of Inspiration Talks. I really appreciate. So, Elizabeth, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Hello, my name is Elizabeth, and I am an author and writer. I do books and also some freelance work doing articles and things. Um, I travel quite a bit. I'm a digital nomad, so like to my tagline on my website is I write or I travel, um, I write, I roam, I hug trees. So I'm focused on sustainability. My work is all about trying to combat climate change and the climate crisis that we're all facing. And that's where my attentions go for my writing and communications work.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I really appreciate. So, as you mentioned about climate change, like what work do you do in climate change?
The work I do
Yeah.
is my first book, and you can find all my books on my website, elizabethkelch.com. My first book is called Living More Sustainably, and it's a small book about the things that we can all do individually to live more sustainable lives, each one of us. Um, how to use a little less plastic and how to have use a little less fossil fuels, and it's all of us needs to do a little bit more than we're doing now. So whatever you're doing now, maybe just do a little bit more. To combat the crisis that we're facing. So that's my first book, and then I also have a religious diversity book for middle school aged kids. Um, it's called Everybody Prays, and it's a book about understanding the different religions around the world, the 20 most practiced religions in the world. Um, just prayers and poems that would be in keeping with those religions. I have an RVing book about how to travel in an RV and explore. Um, just because I believe in the value of travel and experiencing other places and other people, getting to know other things. So um, then I also do freelance work. Um, One of my regular freelance websites or magazines that I write with is called Prop Talk. It's a boating magazine in the Chesapeake Bay, and they publish articles from by me every couple of months, and those are articles about how to make our boating life more sustainable. That's always exciting. It's lovely to be on boats and get out on the water and experience nature, and that's a very big part of learning to be more sustainable. If we appreciate nature more, we will work harder to preserve that. So that's what I do in my professional life to make the world more sustainable. But in my personal life, I do quite a bit. I work very hard to not use any plastics. Um, when I'm out at restaurants, I don't use any plastic silverware. I carry my own silverware so that I don't have to use any plastics. I don't buy any personal care products in the grocery store aisle that's or in the drugstore where they have all the lotions and shampoos and all that stuff. I make all that stuff myself at home from sustainable products. I don't use any of that. I What else do I do to be more sustainable? You name it. I mean, it's just everything. Oh, I don't buy any all my clothing is all natural fibers. I don't have any plastics, polyesters of any sort. All just cotton, silk, um, wool clothing. So yeah, I do. I mean, everything that's in my book and then more some.
Oh, that sounds interesting. I mean, you are a multitasker. Hats off to you. So, what inspired you to pursue your current path, which you are doing in your work life? Like you are writing in magazines and you are a freelancer, you are an author, speaker. So, like, what made you inspired to be in this role?
I remember back when I was even in high school, I remember thinking that I liked the idea of being a writer for a living. And I've been through multiple careers since then. Um, but I'm finally coming back to being a writer. Back in high school, I remember I liked the idea of being a writer, but I also was keen to be, because the fossil fuel companies and everybody knew about this climate crisis that we're facing back in the 70s, and it became more well known in the 80s. And so in the 80s, I was aware that we need to make changes. And I lived in Arizona at the time. Tucson, Arizona is my home. And I remember thinking even back in the 80s, you know what, this is Arizona. We get tons of sunshine here. Why don't we put solar panels on every single roof, and we can all get all the power that we need from the sun even back in the 80s. And the technology has changed so much since then. But we still haven't made the changes that we need to make to live more sustainably and to get ourselves off fossil fuel. And that's down to the legislation and the political will in not just the US but in every country in the world. There's quite a bit of um backlash from the political wings arms of national governments that it's going to mean some sacrifices, and it's going to mean a very large change in how we all live our day-to-day lives. And so outlawing fossil fuels is going to be a very big challenge, but it really needs to be done. So that's and I remember noting that back in the 80s, and I've been active in trying to change that over and to make that change even since then. So I'm getting more and more active as I get older and more scared for my children's future. So I work hard to do everything I can for the future of the young people.
I see that you are actually very hardworking woman, and it's fascinating to know about your journey. So, like, before writing a book, like before becoming author, did you read any book? And that time, did it give you thought that okay, in the future, I'm gonna be an author?
Um, yes, I mean over the years. Well, as I said, I remember even back in
Yeah.
high school, that I wanted to be the one. I like the idea of being a writer, and I have read quite a few books and thought, wow, I'd love to read that. One of my very favorite authors, and I've always said, um, I want to be able to write like him when I grow up. Is Dr. Seuss. I just think that he's amazing. The way he's able to paint the pictures with his words, and it's just fun. I think he's a great author, and I like him very much.
That's good to know.
Most of
So,
what I write is
yeah,
for younger people.
younger people. So, till now, how many books have you written?
I have 4 books published, and I'm not even sure how many articles. I'd have to go back and count them.
Okay, so apart from books, you have written articles too.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so as you mentioned about your freelancing work, can you tell a little about that?
My freelancing work is back in, I think it was about 2015. Um I think that's about soon after I retired from the Navy is when I finally said, you know what, I'm going to actually do this writing thing and try to make a go of it and get some work written and published. And so I was living near the Chesapeake Bay, and I knew of the Prop Talk magazine, and I decided that I would like to try to get some freelance work with them. So I wrote an article and sent it in, and they published it. Um, and they said it was lovely, and we'd love to have more. And so I have continued that relationship with them since then. And there's been other articles. there's a place in the Chesapeake Bay that is some of the first climate refugees in this hemisphere, in this country. There's a place called Tangier Island right in the Chesapeake Bay, and it's a old waterman's community, fishing and crabbing, and um, it's just really iconic Chesapeake Bay community. But it's because it's an island, it's shrinking, and more people are moving away, and there's just less and less land there. And so I wrote an article about that. Um, Lots of pictures, lots of understanding about the culture that will be lost when that island is no longer habitable. Um, it's a very cool place. It's called Tangier Island, and it's in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay. And I wrote that article, and that's on a website called Go Nomad. I believe that's a .org. And what else have I written? Tiny House Talk wrote an article. I wrote an article for them about an RV that I used to have. I have since changed from that RV, but it's a tiny off-grid RV that it was small, and the point of it was that it was all off-grid. So that's some of my freelance work.
Okay, that's great to know. So as you mentioned in the start that you do not buy anything from the grocery store, you make everything by yourself. So like what ingredients do you use to sustain this life?
Well, I buy groceries at the, food stuffs at the grocery store,
Yeah.
but I don't buy any personal care products. So I've first started making my own lotion, probably 10 years ago now.
Okay.
But I use coconut oil and olive oil, almond oil. I use quite a bit of. I use shea butter and cocoa butter, vitamin E oil. I use a little bit of essential oils, um, just some of the basic stuff, tea tree and lavender. I use, you can Google on the web a shampoo called the no poo method. Um, and there's different products that you can use to clean your hair that don't come in a plastic bottle and are not petroleum based. I use apple cider vinegar to uh, give my hair a little bit of a conditioning. Um, I use what other products? I don't use very many. Oh, aloe. I use quite a bit of 100% aloe. Um, and there's stores called refilleries now that are popping up here and there, and you can take your container in and buy the product without it coming in a plastic container. So if you go in, they're called refilleries, but the one that I go to is called Refill Goodness. Um, and they have the products, and you just take your container in, your nice glass non-plastic container, take that in, and then you can fill it up and buy the product without having to get it in a plastic container.
Okay, that's great. So, like as you mentioned about the oils, so do you make each and every oil by yourself in home, or do you buy it ready-made?
I buy the ingredients from the refillery stores,
Okay.
but I make everything myself at home in the kitchen. It's really very simple. There's not People envision it to be much more complex than it really is. It's quite simple.
Yeah, it does sound simple, but people are lazy to make by themselves. For that reason,
True.
they go to the grocery store, or they go to different specific brands, and they buy like expensive products. Although I think
Yes.
natural products are much better than those which are available in different
Yeah.
brands. But
Right. Right.
I feel it's a myth that people prefer to use. Like they will buy expensive brands and then they will apply those on their faces. And nowadays there are many things coming on which people are running after in order to look younger. So what do you think? What a person should eat or apply on their face to remain younger? Because there are many people who are going towards dermatologist and they are like doing different things on their faces
I
just to bring their jaw lines and like just to prevent their aging, to their wrinkles. So do you think it's worth what they are doing?
No, I think it's a um I believe that we all need to embrace who we are and let go of trying to look younger. Um, Try to look healthier,
That's right.
but not younger. Just in one of the stories that I have that is not actually published, but one that I'm very proud of is a story about how a woman who's growing older, and you may have guessed I'm a little older myself. A woman who's growing older, and she's feeling a little lost and what to do with herself. And the story is all about, it's kind of a magical fantasy story, but how she learns to embrace her older state and embrace that stage of life that we all come to, where it's it it's the wisdom of being older and the the wisdom of being older and more settled and more comfortable in our skin. And it's just, the idea of the maiden and then the crone, and take back the concept of the crone, and it's not a bad thing. And it's instead of applying sort of all, using all sorts of products to be younger and to look younger and to act younger and to just love her today and love that, and that's all that matters. Be healthy and happy. Let it go.
That's right. I feel like if you're happy from inner side, it does shows on your face. But if you're not happy or, like it does affect the skin if you're depressed. Anyhow, so what inspires you most in life?
What inspires me most in life? My children. They're all grown now, and they're off and doing their wonderful things and exciting things with their lives. Um, but for inspiration, yeah, the children. To I even have a couple of grandchildren, and I think about the future, that the world that we have to leave to them, and we have to clean this up. We have to clean up this mess for what they're going to. A number of years ago now, my daughter graduated from college, and we were talking, and I said, yeah, well, now you're going to go out and get into the real world and get a job. You're going to have to start thinking about retirement. She said, oh, I'm not. And she was only half joking. Oh, I'm not worried about retiring. I'm just going to die in the climate wars, so it's not a problem. And she was joking at the time, but it was only partially joking, because that is a reality that young people today face. And so that was one of the things that inspired me to act even more and more. I take more action. Just the idea that young people today are that scared about their futures.
That's right.
The unknown is just very scary for them.
That's true. I completely agree. So how would you define success?
How would I define success?
Yeah,
Um, I would define it as happiness. Being the success to me would look like um, feeling a feeling that I'm making a difference in the world. Like I'm inspiring people to make the changes that we all need to make. I suppose I need to more clearly define success for myself, and that's something that I'm just thinking about as you asked that question. It's about making a difference in the world and pushing people to make the changes that we all have to make.
that's right. It's about to make changes that we really need to make. So, as you have been to different countries, if I'm not wrong, so what was your favorite city?
You know what? People ask this all the time. It's so funny. So many times people say, "Well, you've been to so many places. What is it? What is the place you love the most?" And my answer is always, I don't have one that I love the most. They're all beautiful, and they're all interesting. Um, even some of the places that a lot of people, in the Middle East, that some people in this country say, well, it's just all brown and there's nothing there. Um, well, yes, but it's very beautiful in itself. If you're going to trek around the world and then see what you see at home and expect to see what you see at home, then you're missing out. Because you got to find a way to appreciate where you are and appreciate the beauty of the place that you're in and get to know the people and get to know the culture of the place that you're in. So I don't have a place that I liked the best, because they were all different and they all have a
That
beauty and an inspiration of their own, and they're valuable for what they are, not for how much they're like home.
Yeah, that's right. Every country has its own beauty, every city has its own culture, and it gives different vibes. So, yeah, one cannot
Yeah.
differentiate because each country has its own food and
Yes.
everything is different everywhere. So,
Yeah.
if you get a lottery ticket, for example, infinite amount of money, what will you do with it?
Ooh, you know what? That's an interesting question. I mean, we all think about that one
Yeah,
quite a bit. It has come to my attention in recent years that I really don't think I would change my life very much. Um, I think what I would do is buy little bitty houses, tiny houses, apartments, small places in lots of different cities around the world. And then I'd probably hire somebody to manage keeping them all rented, and but block out the time. I think I'd like to be in Paris for a month this year. I think I'd like to be in Tokyo for a month this year. I think I'd like to be in South Africa for a month this year, and block out the years, the times that I would like to be there, and then beyond that, have hire somebody to keep them rented. So I would if I had infinite amounts of money, I would buy very small places in lots of different countries around the world,
that's great.
communities and towns and things around the world.
That's good idea,
Spend some
actually.
time in those places to be able to get to know the people and the culture there.
Oh, that's amazing. And I really wish that lottery ticket was a real thing. Usually it is a real thing, but it's very luck thingy. Only if
Yes.
you get a chance, then only this happens. So, Elizabeth, what advice would you like to give to those who are watching you right now?
Ooh, advice.
Yeah,
Um, the advice I would give is look around your life and just for today, think of one thing that you can do that would make your life be a little bit more sustainable. Um, Next time you go to the takeout and they just automatically throw a plastic to buy takeout food, and they automatically throw plastic silverware in your bag, take it back out and hand it back and say, no, I don't need this. Because if you just take it home, it's just going to go in the trash. Um, One other thing that people could do is when you go to a restaurant and they put your drink on the table and they just throw a straw on the table, pick it up and hand it right back to them. Because if you're not going to use it, you don't need it, but it's going to go in the trash because it's been on your table. So if you're going to use it, then that's fine. But if you're not going to use it, hand it right back to them. So at least it's not going into the trash needlessly. Um, Maybe consider buying a little less packaged foods, or maybe consider buying a little less meat. Meat is a terrible thing for the environment, meat products. So maybe eat a little bit more plant-based foods. It's healthier for us and healthier for the environment. So my advice is to just for today, pick one thing to say, you know what, for now I'm not going to do this, and then tomorrow pick one other thing and say, I mean, you know what, this isn't very sustainable, so I'm not going to do this. Try to live more sustainably and find more and more ways in our lives to live more sustainably.
that's great perspective which you shared. And thank you so much for being part of Inspiration Talks. I really appreciate. So, if listeners would like to connect with you, how can they get connected to you?
As I said, my website is elizabethkelch.com. You can find all the books that I've written and all the articles that I've written. most of the articles that I've written, selected articles that I've written, all on my website. And you can also connect to me and send me a note, and I will try to write you a note back. But yeah, my website is elizabethkelch.com.
That's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, keep exploring and learning. Bye.